So UK rapper Fredo's associates, the Harrow Boys HRB, who bought firearms in a bid to harm Digga as part of a gang war and left 3 people dead and brought communities to their knees, is what's just recently come out. Their sentencing adds up to 116 years. Many of them got 17 years behind bars, with one person actually getting 14 years. And we spoke to Total Crime, who covered this a lot more in depth. We'll get into what's going on with Fredo right now because he was in this case as well, but Little Dots, the rapper that's well known, was also given 17 years. Fredo Digga case, today sentencing of 17 years to numerous members. Was you expecting that?
I did have I was playing a game of guess the sentence with somebody else, and I went for 16 years, so they got slightly longer. One of them got 14 years, but yeah, you're right, most of them got 17 years.
Fredo right now, he's not in the country. Is he having a separate trial? Do you understand what's happening with that?
Well, he is. I suppose they could have tried him in absentia. You know, sometimes people have tried when they've been charged and then they've jumped bail. But he was never charged. He sort of went to Dubai before any of the others got charged. And no, he's a fugitive, so he won't be having a trial until if he is found and extradited from somewhere. Or makes a mistake and goes to a country where he can be extradited.
So is he wanted by the police right now? Do you know? Is he on the run technically, or is it just a case they haven't had a chance to charge him?
They haven't said publicly, but he must be, because the judge in his sentencing made it clear that Marvin Bailey would have been, he said it would have been on trial. Basically, he's in the indictment. There's loads of evidence against him, which obviously he's not here to defend himself and say what his side of the story is. But yeah, he's definitely a wanted man.
So when you said you weren't surprised, 17 years, that's a long sentence. What were some of the factors, the aggregating factors to make it such a big sentence? That's a long time, 17 years.
Yeah, I mean, it was, there's a little bit of, there's not much of a range really. The possession of a firearm with intent, to cause violence, has quite a high sort of starting point. I think it's about 16 to 22 years is the range. So they weren't going to get much less than that. It might be a bit lower than the 16, but so they were going to get a big chunk, because obviously you can have possession of firearm without intent. Presumably that sometimes, say a girlfriend or some completely sort of innocent person is looking after a gun for somebody, but has got no plans to use it themselves. But obviously they had intent, and there was so much evidence, not just in their famous Snapchat, but elsewhere, that they were intending to use that weapon to shoot, if not kill someone. Yeah,
so with the Snapchat side of things, was this something that was traced, or was it just under the fact that they arrested someone that had it in their phone? How did they get to the Snapchat?
I think somebody, I'm not going to name him, but I will probably name him in my Substack, but the individual who was arrested, and they found the Snapchat group on his phone, might not be the most popular person in the HRB following it, because who knows what happened. He could have, if he'd had time, deleted that or whatever. But yeah, he was basically caught red-handed with it, and they got into it then, and got a massive sort of treasure chest of evidence from that Snapchat group.
Yeah, other than the Snapchat group, was there any other evidence that surprised you? I know they had cameras installed as well.
Yeah, that's right. There were cameras. I mean, a lot of the evidence related to this gun. So there's kind of 2 different guns in the case. There was a gun that was used to shoot at CGM members in, I think it was August 2022. And that gun was then, I think, found. I think it might have been thrown away or something. And then the HRB had to get another gun. So they procured another gun, and they hid it in a block of flats in Vauxhall, which is obviously not in their territory. It's sort of
Yeah.
on the other side of the river. But the police found out about it somehow, and they put a sort of covert. No, I'm not sure if they put a covert camera in, or whether they just got somebody's sort of ring doorbell or that sort of footage. But they certainly saw members of the gang going up and sort of hiding something in this sort of cubby hole in the block of flats.
Yeah.
So that was kind of crucial. And then there was DNA evidence on the bag that the gun was in and stuff like that.
So there are musicians in this case. Was music mentioned in this one? I believe something to do with a studio or something as well.
It was not sort of central to the case, like it has been in recent cases like Billy Billions and the KO case. Yeah. In this case, it was mentioned insofar as there were videos, and there was mention of Fredo having sort of recorded videos on the Mozart estate.
Yeah.
Both sides sort of dissing each other. It was just sort of background, really, just to inform the jury that there was clearly bad blood between these two gangs. But they didn't go into great detail about lyrics and stuff.
So another rapper that was brought up in the paperwork was Russ. And from what I understand, he's not been charged with anything, but he just comes up in the paperwork having a discussion with another rapper.
Yeah, I mean, again, I will tell the full story in totalcrime.substack.com, which I believe you're going to put in your
I'll link that
case
description for the full thing.
But yes, basically the summary of it is that he, I think it was his manager had told him that he saw Digga D at a recording studio in sort of central London.
Yeah.
And Russ Millions then passed that information on to someone who was either in or very close to the HRB. And I mean, he's not on trial.
Yeah.
He's not, we haven't heard his version of events. He may just be saying he was sort of passing on gossip,
I have spoken to Ross, and he just said that he's not been charged with anything. That's why he's kind of frustrated about it a little bit. He's been brought up in the paperwork, but he's not been charged with an actual offence right now, I don't think.
No, there's no evidence or suggestion that he was in on the conspiracy or knew what they would do, what would happen with that sort of little gobbit of information.
Yeah.
It's probably unlikely to think, well, they're going to straight away go and find a gun and go in a car and go and shoot him, because as it happened, Digga D left the studio before the gang could sort of get their act together and go and shoot him.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you this. With rappers, there's a lot of things about their musician, their lyrics being used against them. Is it more a thing in court to paint a picture, or is it actually used as evidence now directly?
Yeah, well, it is sometimes used in evidence. I mean, for example, like the KO case, famously, that was almost sort of self-snitching because they put too much information in the lyrics, which only the killers or shooters could have known about, this gun that would. So that was a bit dumb, and if they don't mind me saying so. And the other one is Billy Billions, where he went into quite a lot of detail in a lot of his. You can read about this again on my Substack, but he went into quite a lot of detail about his things he'd done. And then when it came to trial and he was accused of being, a gang member on a conspiracy to murder charge, he then sort of played it down and said, I was just making it up, that was just artistic license. I didn't actually do any of those things, but it didn't work out for him, really.
But when I was reading the KO stuff as well, would lyrics alone be enough evidence? That's what I was trying to get across. Like, if there was no other stuff like phone cell data in cases like that, would just lyrics alone at a certain point be enough to put someone behind?
No, definitely not. I mean, there's pressure groups. There's people like Art Not Evidence who are campaigning against sort of rap lyrics being used. I mean, there's another case I'm going to write a Substack about. Which is actually involved a white supremacist band who were doing sort of they were doing songs with extreme sort of racist lyrics in them, and they've been convicted. So it's not just black musicians who are actually getting called up on their lyrics, but obviously when it comes to these rap cases, it gets a lot of attention, and people like Diane Abbott have been campaigning against it. But no, you definitely couldn't be prosecuted just for writing a song about something. Or there's loads of songs where going back in the folk and pop and where I shot the sheriff. Bob Marley's not admitting having shot anyone in that. It's just a song. There has to be a lot of other lyrics, a lot of other evidence rather than just lyrics.
So right now we do not know what's going to happen with Fredo in terms of that initial case. We're just still waiting. We'll get updates.
Yeah, I don't know whether he will make a statement or anything on his Instagram or address the elephant in the room. But at the moment he's just sort of living the life, and I think he's putting music out, and he is not in the dock, but pretty sure if he arrived in the UK or anywhere like America where he could be extradited from, then he'd be in a lot of trouble.
It was a very complex investigation with a lot of paperwork involved. Was there anything else that surprised you about the HRB situation?
Yeah, actually, there was some very good. There was what is called a community impact report, which was read out. Which I think that must be quite a new thing, because I don't think I've heard one read out before. But obviously we have victim impact reports, but this one was a community impact report, and it was written by a policeman who has basically policed the Mozart estate and the nearby Lidford estate for 15 years. And he went into great detail about, how awful, life is there for residents because of the HRB, and how it's the number one sort of crime priority for residents of that area, constant HRB gang violence or attacks on retaliatory attacks against them. And, all sorts of chaos. There was loads of chaos during the COVID pandemic when they were meeting in like huge groups in no social distancing, having parties, jumping up and down on the roof of primary school minibuses, just kind of anarchy to some degree. And lots of residents who moved out of the area. A couple of people just gave up their council tenancy because they just couldn't bear living there. It really brought home how horrible it is to live in an area totally dominated by a gang.
What about the other side of things, the defence? Was anything surprise you on that? 17 years is a long time behind bars, but was anything that they put forward? Wasn't there something that stuck out with regards to the rapper Little Dots, or something that was put forward on them lines?
Yes, there was quite an interesting sort of bit of mitigation from his lawyer, and including a letter read out from his mother, who went into his family background. It's pretty sad, actually. I mean, he's had a pretty tough life. He was one of 4 children. I think a sister died from sort of health issues first. Then his eldest brother Giorgio, who was known as G Dots, he died in a road accident. And then his another brother, Danesh Tyson, was murdered, I believe, by CGM, or certainly by another gang, in July 2022. So Javon Tyson's mother has only got one surviving child out of 4, and she was, I think she was sort of saying how, he's carrying all this trauma, and it may explain why he's apparently quite a violent individual and a very key player in HRB. He's got a lot of rage inside him, I imagine.
Yeah, they was all given 17 years, with the exception of one person. What was different in his case?
Yeah, that was a guy called Harry Crump, who I believe he had sort of lesser. He played a lesser role. There was no, for example, no footage of him sort of near where the gun was in Vauxhall. I think if he was in the Snapchat group, he didn't really say much, and he was also a little bit younger. He was sort of, you get time knocked off for being younger. He was, I think, 21 at the time. So yeah, that was why he got a slightly lower sentence.
Have they all been on remand this whole time, or just bailed?
Actually, two of them, I can't remember which two, but two of them, I think it was Crump and I might be wrong, but I think Harry Crump and Sappho Frimpong, who was actually found not guilty of the main charge, they were on bail until Monday, when they were found guilty anyway, or one of them was.
So if Fredo was over here and got arrested with him initially, do you think he would have been bailed, or could he have been sitting on remand for the last couple of years?
Well, I think the police would have objected to bail because, especially because of how much money he's got. They could probably say, well, he can afford, he's a risk of jumping bail. He could probably afford to buy a fake passport, or which he presumably did to get out of the country. So yeah, if he had been charged, I think he would have been remanded.
Yeah, but there's no update right now with a separate trial or anything for Fredo. It's just, has his name been brought up from anything you've seen in court with regards to what's going to happen in the future? Have they said that there's still a pending?
No, I mean, I've covered other trials like the Kore Alpagin case, where there was that was a murder of a guy in Tottenham, a Turkish gang murder, where people were actually being arrested during the trial, and they later had to have a follow-on trial because it was too late to join them to the original trial. But we're still waiting for a breaking news flash saying Fredo's been arrested somewhere. Until that happens, we don't have any news on any trial for him. But I imagine he will have a trial one of these days.
From your knowledge, if he does get arrested and brought into this, will he be trialed with everyone again, or would it just be his own thing? No,
it would be, a bit like the Billy Billions case, where there was that was involving a drive-by shooting, and the three people involved in the shooting had already been found guilty, and then Billy Billions was put on trial separately later, and eventually found guilty. But they wouldn't have to bring the original people back. They've already been found guilty. You would have to, the prosecutor just has to explain, but these people have been found guilty. Quite often what happens is the person on trial will try to blame those other people because, they've already been found guilty, so I can just blame them. But